If I get shot, I go to jail.
All right. So just to close up in summary today, like I said, we talked about Mary started off with a little bit of an overview of the BMAP process, and what she talked about as we move forward in April, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about organization. Now wasn't the best time to do that, but certainly in the next month or two, that's going to start to be part of the discussion. We went into the different presentations. We saw really two. What we seem to have everybody seems to be in agreement on this, that we have two sets of data that we looked at. How to identify a spring shed potentiometric and modeling based, and then versus some of the other information like the aquifer vulnerability and dye tracers that show the heterogeneity within that spring shed in terms of vulnerability to pollutants that are applicated at the land surface and movement of groundwater through conduits. So what we've come up with here is the general feeling is that the larger definition of the spring shed based on some form of potentiometric boundary is what we want to look at as the BMAP boundary, with the understanding that all these other pieces of information are going to be used by the group to focus the efforts in this first 5 years down to where we want to address projects that are going to show improvement in the springs. So that's a quick summary of what we've established here today. Again, if anybody wants to add something, please do.
How long will it be before you actually do something besides plan?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of things have already been done or already in the works, and in the next month or so, you're going to hear that discussion about starting to collect information on those projects that are both proposed and completed.
I mean, like reduce nutrients and increase flows.
As far as the nutrient reduction, that's exactly what I'm talking
Okay.
about. The projects that have already been done by the different agencies, and also the ones that are planned and in the works. So that's a discussion that's going to we have to start at this point right now to set the BMAP boundary. But you're right, we're going to start getting into that discussion of projects in the next month or two.
Perhaps someone in this room can answer my question about the Blue Springs, Belusa Blue, which is impaired, and there was a proposal to bring its water level up by injecting reclaim into the spring shed, but run it through an RO filter first. That was quite controversial, and that whole project ended. I don't think they've ever had a meeting since, have they? So I'm wondering if someday we're going to be faced with that question of injecting reclaim next to the spring head, but run it through RO filters first. Since that was Belusa's solution, will that come out here? Remains to be seen. It's a very, very expensive option, but one in which they did consider in Belusa County.
So the next meetings, we have picked 2 dates and we have secured the facilities. I'm going to go back and ask that question I asked early on when I started the meeting. This has been a long meeting. It's been a lot of technical material. Do you feel comfortable that these could be 3-4 hour type meetings? I'm seeing people saying, yeah, they're okay. Everybody's worn out, okay?
We haven't worn you out? Really? Can we go to 5 or 6 hour meetings?
I know, we're going to have to work on that.
This was good. This was a good size. I mean,
Okay.
your morning, you had your break, you had your afternoon. This is
Okay.
I felt.
We have a lot to talk about and a lot of work to do. Lisa?
I just want to address, Mary, something that you and I got to talk about before. I think this is a good forum for technical meetings, but I want to reiterate that I think you need to hold a weekend or an evening meeting once in a while for the common person who's not a state employee, who's not to be able to attend this. And even if it's nothing more than 6 months semi-annual update on what's happened thus far, continue to engage the community and let them know where it's going.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, but I think maybe later
Yeah, that's definitely something yes, that's definitely something that's on the table and under consideration too. Alright, so, like Mary said, we've picked 2 meeting dates. The April meeting would be April 11th, so it's about 4 weeks from now. So a little bit sooner than the interval between January and this meeting. The April 11th meeting will be back in this room. Like I said, the county has a lot of things going on that they use the larger training room for, where we were last month. However, when May rolls around, that room frees up again. So in May, we'll be back in the larger room at the other end of the plaza here.
And you'll notice on for April 11th, we still had already planned, we would have a continuation of this boundary discussion, assuming we would not come to agreement today or come to some ideas of what to do. We'll continue that, bring back all the things we talked about today with a little more, some manipulation of that data or some ways of synthesizing it together to see what story we can tell by doing that. Ideally, hopefully, we might be able to get into start a discussion on some of the land use and start opening that doorway from where that takes us.
And then in May, one of the things that we wanted to bring is the dynamics of nitrogen in the environment. That's another component of targeting efforts, and part of that is understanding how the different forms of nitrogen behave once they enter the soil column, and how some forms of nitrogen, while they're not nitrate when they're at the ground surface, are nitrate by the time they reach the aquifer. So we are looking for somebody. Like I said, I had approached USGS about possibly doing that, although, like I said, their travel is very limited at the moment. But we are looking for somebody who's going to do that presentation for us.
Wouldn't the land use meeting be better after the nitrate meeting? About what you're gonna, I would think, to know how the nitrates are going to be fixed or potentially worked on before land use, so that we would know what a time frame would be before, I don't know how to say it, before we let some people come in that are gonna contribute to nitrates. You know, wouldn't it be better to know the nitrate situation?
Understand the nitrogen cycle
Understand
first.
the dynamics of nitrogen and basically the science or how nitrogen's moving through the environment before jumping in. That's a consideration. I mean, that's not a problem to swap those.
Well, what Mary and I will do is we'll go back and look at this, because I mean this is a proposed agenda based on what we thought before coming into this meeting.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll go back and look at what we've discussed today, how we think how much further discussion we're going to have on the spring shift boundary in April, and it might be possible to even do the nitrogen cycling discussion in April, but also even introduce the land use at that point too, and sort of condense into one. Because again, as far as the nitrogen